Hi, everyone. So, everyone was saying, thanks for joining us today. I'm just really glad you came back. When you're after the break, you don't really know. So thanks, you're energized. Everyone caught up with their old friends. Good to see you all. So as Will said, I'm Verna De Jesus. I get to work on our CTV partnerships. And what I love about the conversation we're having today, it's like, look, March is right around the corner. And when you think about college basketball, what's happening, I love that women's sports has gotten to a place where like, we're talking just as much about the women's teams as we are the men's teams. I'm like, love that. I'm like, you know, and you think about like, you know, the world of American football, like we just had the NFL season end and we were looking at the data. I mean, I think someone stole my thunder. I saw on the slides earlier, over 1 billion impressions every weekend in NFL. So for us, it's just an exciting time to be in the space that we're in. And when you think about it, it wasn't that long ago that live sports is really like the last holdout when you think about linear. Now that you can consume any way you want, you know, streaming, linear, it really opens up tremendous opportunity for advertisers. And you know, hey, the biggest benefactor of that pivot is programmatic advertising, right? But this is why we have two of our esteemed panelists here with us to dive into that a bit more. John, Jax, tell our friends here in the room a little bit more about your role and your favorite sport, and then we can dive into today's discussion.
Great. John Alleva, hi everybody, EVP of Platform Monetization at NBCUniversal, and born and raised in New York, so I'm a New York Giant fan, so favorite sport would be football.
Yes. Excellent. Excellent. So I'm Jaclyn Wyatt. I lead digital marketing for Samsung mobile division. To me, my favorite sport depends on the season. So I'm a big Formula One fan. It's going to be a good weekend. But then I'm also a big NFL fan. Go Bengals. Hoo day. Hoo day. I knew there was somebody who would be in here with me. All right, it's our year next year.
So I deliberately didn't share my favorite sport because I grew up in Rhode Island and I am a recovering Pats fan. So it was a really great.
Give us the time.
Yeah, you know, so we're good, we're good. But like, I love the energy and banter we have on sports. And when I think about, you know, our friends over here with John, like Sunday Night Football proudly claims to be the most watched TV show every year. And with it on Peacock now, what I love is like the halo effect that's had. So I kept saying American football earlier because if you think about the rest of the world, those viewers has opened the door to some of your other offerings, like, I'm like, the world's football. I'm like,
that's
John's
right.
Like, yeah, so you think about
World Cup,
Premier League, and you think about, we talked about college basketball earlier, but what I also really love about this, and John pointed this out to me, he's like, yeah, but Verna, it's like, you're just thinking about sports, but think about live events like we're here in New York, the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade. And you think about all of this opportunity, like, how has your strategy changed for programmatic buying because of that evolution?
Yeah, I think for live sports, our programmatic strategy has definitely evolved over the years. It was just a few years ago where the only way you could buy our live sports digitally was through a direct deal. And since then, we've invested heavily in programmatic to get both automated and addressable. And so now, the majority of our buying is still done upfront in a guaranteed way. But now we've supplemented that with programmatic biddable in live events, and the results have been great. We've more than doubled the amount of advertisers in our programmatic live events, and so we want to continue that because we get to diversify the client base then, and it's not only a better consumer product, but also better for our clients.
Awesome. So you kind of helped open the door there for me. Jax. So for those of you that don't know Jax, she works for this really tiny startup out of Korea called Samsung. And, you know, small company. But this small company in Korea is an incredible innovator as a consumer brand. But Jax, you know, you're very humble. So I'm going to like, you know, I'm going to be there, just like tout your accomplishments. Kudos to your leadership. Samsung has been an innovator as an advertiser too. You've invested heavily in buying live events programmatically, like Sunday Night Football and Premier League on Peacock. When did you realize buying programmatic live sports was a great investment for you, and why is it important to have like a programmatic strategy?
Well, thank you for saying that. I mean, it's true. Yeah, it's a tiny company, which I also think is one of the most innovative companies in the world. We make some of the most innovative products. If you don't mind, I have a little show and tell. I mean, come on, y'all.
She comes with props.
Like, come on, right? We have phones that fold, or if you recently saw our latest Galaxy S24 with Galaxy AI, we have the first AI phone. We have an innovative story to tell, but I can't do lame storytelling. I need to do innovative storytelling to do that. And I think what's interesting about programmatic storytelling is we can dive deeper into what our innovation does for consumers. So for example, John, you might really be into the flex cam selfie, right? Like you need to step up your social game. I get it.
Yep.
So he wants to do that. You know, Verna, for you, it might be with Galaxy AI, you can do chat assist to make your messages Shakespearean mode.
I'm very Shakespearean.
Class it up.
Absolutely.
Okay, you can do that. But again, so these are really personal things, right? That somebody might want to use these amazing, innovative products for. But how do I tell that story to just a TV commercial? And that's what's really exciting with programmatic is like I'm living in a marketer's dream. I can tell the right story to the right audience during live sports when their eyes are watching. So that's why, to me, it was a no-brainer.
I mean, John, should we just get off the stage like Jackson?
No
just
flip
like,
phone, yeah.
do you have props?
I do not.
Oh man, come on.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
all right, John. So, not that our friend Jax needs any help, because clearly she's got this on lock. But when we think about media buyers, like what is it that? How do you assist them? Like, what are your thoughts on like how they buy live events and streaming?
Yeah, and we said it before. There's this dual approach with guaranteed buying, where Samsung's a great sponsor of English Premier League soccer. But then we also have biddable, and so what we do with our programmatic clients from a biddable perspective is it really is a three-way collaboration between, in this case, NBCUniversal, partners like the Trade Desk, and then clients like Samsung.
We're your favorite partner, right?
And others, our favorite partner.
Okay, everyone, can you quote that?
Yeah, exactly. And so what we try to do is we set up a one-to-one deal with most of our clients, and this has been said before already, but we've adopted UID 2.0. And so when you have something like live sports, which is the most engaged viewers that I think you can possibly have in terms of content. And then you tie in UID 2.0 for addressability. It really is a win-win-win. And so that's something that we're really excited about. And with sports, since it's so unpredictable, you have to have a unique sports strategy to take advantage of all the audience that's there in really a short period of time.
I love that. And Jax, I feel like when I think about from your vantage point, the best thing about buying in programmatic is being able to leverage data to inform your buys, to measure your outcomes. What can you share with us about the impact of buying sports programmatically on your business?
I'd be happy to share a few numbers. So for us, when we got into doing live sports programmatic buying, we actually increased our audience reach in digital 33%.
I want to make sure they really hear that. Let's repeat that one more time.
For all the people in the back, say it again.
Yep, that's right. So with our digital audience, with our reach, by buying sports live sports live. Maybe that's a new thing I should trademark. But by buying live sports, we increased that reach by 33%, which is amazing. And then on top of that, we have just a scotch under a $4 ROAS. So again, the fact that we can say this is the impact that we made to our business by investing in this was pretty powerful for us.
I love that because I feel like when you think about so much of what we're talking about today, it's measurement, it's about data, it's like the intersection of, this is an overused term that we use in the industry, like how content is king, but data is queen. But when you think about that, people used to think about that more like in a traditional sense. The fact that like merging of that methodology in live sports too, it's like before like sports was like the cool kid, the untouchable cool kid. But like the cool kid is now becoming like pretty nerdy, and like nerdy's pretty cool now. And as a nerd, I'm all about that. And John touched on this a little bit because I think one of the things that made like sports so exciting and evoked that fandom and emotion is unpredictability, right? And the fact that it's unscripted. Even though there's some people out there who will say like the NFL scripted, it's not scripted, right? It's
We'll argue about that later over a drink, right? Right. We've been scripted.
But it's unpredictable when we think about what happened like at the Super Bowl a couple weeks ago. Our friends at Paramount were on stage here. It went into overtime for the second time in history of the Super Bowl. As a sports fan, I love that, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like I grew up in Rhode Island. I had no dog in this fight. I was like, which one do I bet on? Like I'm into either team. But the fact that it went to overtime, it brought such a different value to me, of that experience. But then I put like my nerdy hat back on, and I think about my dear friends like John Alleva, and I think about how the unpredictable aspect of live sports and overtimes it keeps him up at night.
Yeah, it does.
Because how does that, like, and when you think about that magic, it unlocks challenges and opportunities.
Yeah.
Want to walk us through that a bit?
Yeah, I think, we're continuing to learn in the space because live sports programmatic is so new. But one of the first things that we learned is that you can't really time the sports marketplace, to your point. You have to prepare for it. And so the way to prepare for it is to have a specific and customized sports strategy with our clients to really take advantage of could be a really large audience in a very short period of time. And, a great example of that is Caitlin Clark breaking the women's NCAA scoring record.
Woo.
She did that in a Peacock exclusive game. And so the clients that were prepared were able to take advantage of all that incremental audience and reach that happened from that game. When Peacock secures the rights to a league like Big Ten, that's just another game on the schedule. And to Verna's point, we're not reacting to that. But then when she gets close to breaking the record, we can work with our partners in this ongoing relationship to be as flexible as possible to take advantage of those additional eyeballs. And so, we're still learning in this space, but that's something that we've learned and hopefully we can take with us going forward.
I love that you kept using multiple times learned, because at the Trade Desk, like, we're still learning in this space as well. So one of the things that we realize when you think about how you buy live sports programmatically, it's very different than almost anything else, right? And so for us, it was like, we have to think about the pacing. We got to think about how our algorithms work and all this, like the technical enhancements and augmentation that we got to think about. But I love what about this, it's like really also opened up like a deeper partnership between our teams, right? When you think about, because you can only fix so much with the machines. A lot of it is like the collaboration with key brands like Jax's team and like key partners like you. Yeah. And I just think like there's so much more ahead of us on this. And it's funny, like I love that you keep reminding me it's not just about sports, about live events in general, because it's like that unscripted quality, and having to solve for that in a unique way is the value.
Yeah.
And so Jax, when we think about all this, I feel like I'm gonna ask John first, because I'm gonna keep it open-ended deliberately. So all this change, all this opportunity, all of our teams working together on like this constantly moving, evolving space. What are you most excited about? I
think, first, in the near future, what I'm most excited about is getting one of those flip phones. So that's one. And then the other thing is just keying off of your point is we don't just set up a NFL deal and just leave it and come back at the end of the season. It's a week-to-week process with all our partners to try to make sure that we're optimizing to our full potential. And I think that's the key going forward, is just continuing to collaborate and work together on, day in and day out, trying to drive, meaningful results in live sports.
That's awesome.
I love that. I mean, for me, I have two answers.
Yes, please.
The first, we're talking about test and learn. I grew up studying the scientific method, right? Remember those days of 5th grade of plan, do, study, act? To me, that's what's exciting about programmatic, and especially in live sports, like you said, because there's so much change. What's the plan? Let's see what happens. What do we study and how we act on it?
Yeah.
Is that cycle we need to do? And so what an exciting time for so many brands, not just this little company called Samsung, to go in and give it a shot and give it a try and see, test and learn and scale on this exciting thing, which is great. My second answer, I think that I'm so excited about, is I get to retire my crystal ball. I don't know if y'all still use one. I don't use mine anymore. I get to put it away. And because, our teams build some of the most beautiful creative, I'm sure you all too, right? Some amazing ideas, again, to tell those stories about our products. And then we sit in a room and go, this one? To go out and really hope that works. And what's so exciting about what we're doing with this test and learn structure and working together is that let's put all the creative out there. Let's see what John wants to see versus Verna while they're watching live sports. I mean, to me, it just makes my marketing heart like pitter patter, because I can just put it all out there. I let the data answer. So crystal ball, retired, let's go, 2024, go Bengals.
I love it. I love it. So I think there's one last point you just reminded me that we didn't even talk about. I love that you're saying test your creative. I love that you're thinking about like what might resonate with me, might not resonate with John, and vice versa. But you also, we've been joking about Samsung being the small startup, and we know it's, it's a massive brand. But what I love about buying like sports in like a biddable, like programmatic environment is, it is now, like the cool kids before in sports only had certain brands that could come hang out with them. Opening it up to so much more of like other brands is incredible. And John, I feel like that's something I'm gonna go back to like Verna's going off script. I'm like, I love that like when we started leaning into like live sports, we saw just like the long-term like trajectory of that, where I think you shared with me like how people that came in via programmatic or live sports, they stayed.
Yeah, we've seen that. It goes to everything we're saying, but for programmatic advertisers that came in, we saw the returning advertisers, they grew their budgets almost 7x. So
7. That's
year
pretty
over year,
remarkable.
that was the growth of returning advertisers. Now, that was a really small experimental budget to start, but now they're spending in a meaningful way, and I think that goes to everything you're saying too, Jax, in terms of testing and learning, and so we hope that that continues going forward, obviously.
I love it. So I want to close out with, Jax reminded us that whether you're Samsung, that a brand that everybody knows, you can get creative because you can test out. Oh wow, I didn't realize that. Test out your different creative. But what I also love about it is you might not be a Samsung and you might not have as a robust a strategy, but it allows you to lean into a space that maybe historically you weren't really allowed in. So thank you both for all your insights. Thanks for everyone for sticking around after the break. And all right.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.